Do you feel like the Nets and Lakers are a lock to meet in the finals?
Yes, I do. If Anthony Davis were 100%, I think the Los Angeles Lakers are going to the finals. If the Brooklyn Nets are 100%, there's nobody in the East that's beating them. I've stated that from day one, and I maintain that position that the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers will meet for the NBA championship come July. My attitude is very, very simple. I think that when you look at AD and you look at LeBron James, as great as the Utah Jazz are looking right now, as much of a threat as the Denver Nuggets could end up being, Portland could end up being, etc., I think LeBron and his brilliance combined with the greatness of Anthony Davis and the way Frank Vogel and his staff have those guys playing defense, they get themselves ready for playoff competitions. And it's all about matchups. And nobody is better at exploiting matchups than LeBron James. All right, so that's what I think about with the Lakers, plain and simple. When I think about the Brooklyn Nets, I think that Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant are just lethal. They are absolutely sensational offensively. And I think in this particular case, a great offense makes for a better defense. I don't think that they're going to be the elite defense by any stretch of the imagination. Max has highlighted how awful they have been. Nevertheless, we found ourselves looking at them and we said, you know what? They're getting a little better defensively, particularly at key moments in fourth quarters. I've seen them do it. And then you look at how lethal they can be offensively, not just from the perimeter, not just scoring overall, but what they do from the free throw line. They don't miss free throws either. And I think that's pivotal. And I think when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, Ben Simmons, as great as he is, he doesn't even attempt perimeter shots. I don't think that you can beat them without him doing that, even though they have Seth Curry and Tobias Harris. I look at Boston, I question their depth, and I don't know what's going on with Kemba Walker. And I look at, Miami, they're sliding fast. They're not what they used to be. The Milwaukee Bucks, they've been struggling, and if Giannis can't make perimeter shots, as I've said on many occasions, you don't have a prayer in hell against the Brooklyn Nets and specifically Kevin Durant. So I look at the Brooklyn Nets, and I don't see anything standing in their way but themselves, and I don't think they will do that. The Brooklyn Nets, if healthy, the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers will meet for the NBA championship in July, and I don't have a scintilla of doubt about it.
It's possible, but I think there's plenty of doubt. Number one, the Western Conference. Let's not pretend this is the same old Jazz. This is something different. Mike Conley was not Mike Conley last year. He is this year. He's one of the best players in the league. And when you combine him with Donovan Mitchell, and just consider that the Jazz gave the Nuggets, it's one of the all-time great 7-game series in the first round, gave them everything they wanted without Bogdanovich. Now add him and also add the real Mike Conley. They're being compared to the Spurs from several years ago, and those teams beat everyone. They beat LeBron James teams. They beat everyone. They beat the Lakers. And for good reason, they're being compared to them. And then the Clippers. The Clippers have gotten better when healthy. Not only does Paul George have a lot to make up for now, but they have Ibaka and, as I mentioned, Nick Batum, who's back to playing kind of like he played when he got that max deal or close to it in the first place. And that's just in the Western Conference, and I haven't even mentioned Denver or if Dallas can get it all together, right? It's choppy waters in the Western Conference. But what about the Eastern Conference? You know, I agree with you about the Bucks, Stephen A. I'm not convinced about the Bucks, but the Sixers are another story, and I will tell you why. You mentioned Ben Simmons can't shoot the three. If he could, I'd be just taking the Sixers already. Because the difference between the Sixers and the Nets, no team in the last 20 years has won a championship ranked lower than 11th defensively. James Harden is right when he says, guys, we don't have to be awesome defensively, just average. If we're just average defensively, but Stephen A., they're not. They're dead last. Like, they're awful defensively. Sixers aren't. Matter of fact, and when you talk about Ben Simmons' three-point shooting, Stephen A., on the court, when Ben Simmons is on the court, they shoot 41% from three. It's the second best in the league. When he's off the court, they shoot 29% from the three. At least this was true a week ago. 29% is dead last. So while Simmons himself doesn't shoot, he makes everybody else much better. They go from worst, basically, to basically best with Simmons on the floor. So you know what the difference is here with the Sixers? This is not your slightly older sibling 76ers. They have Daryl Morey now. And obviously Doc Rivers. But what Morey did in Houston is the same thing he's doing here. He's like, we are going to play the most efficient brand of basketball. He just didn't have the horses in Houston. Not really. He has the horses in Philadelphia. Embiid's playing at MVP level. He'd be my pick for MVP right now. and Ben Simmons is also excellent, and they got shooters everywhere you look. The Nets can get there, but they must start playing defense.
Let me educate you about something here, Max. And I say that respectfully. When you're watching the game of basketball, let me give you a little bit of insight into my philosophy about certain things. When you spend years not showing up when it counts, and what I mean by that is I'm not talking about choking or anything like that. I'm just talking about you just don't have it. You're not that person. You see what I'm saying? You're a role player. You're a marginal player. I'm not talking about a James Harden who's been a little less than what we're accustomed to seeing him be in a regular season once the postseason arrives, because I believe in James Harden, and I believe that James Harden is going to show up in some capacity and have some kind of a positive impact. I'm talking about the guys that just don't necessarily have it. It's not who they are. There are limits. There's a ceiling. I don't rely on those folks when it comes time. See, when you see it during the regular season, that's nice. But when it gets tight and when the competition gets elite, and that pressure mounts, I'm not sold on you if I've never seen you there before. That's just not me. And so when I think about the Philadelphia 76ers, I like Tobias Harris a lot. I believe in Seth Curry. I love Joel Embiid and what he brings to the table. And I believe in Ben Simmons to a point. Do I believe they can get to the conference finals? Hell yeah. Do I believe they can win it all going up against an offensive juggernaut like the Brooklyn Nets? That's where my reservations kick in. Milwaukee, Giannis, you ain't never work on your J. I don't believe all of a sudden you're going to find it come postseason time. When I think about Boston, I believe in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown a lot. I don't believe in their depth. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.